Hey folks, Quill18 here, and Sid Meier's Civilization 6 is going to be released this year. October 21st, we are going to get a new chapter in a game that is really a favorite of this channel. Of course, Civilization 4 was actually the very first game I Let's Played on this channel, and Civ 5 is probably one of the ones that we have done the most. So really excited about Civ 6. It has just been announced today. We don't know that much about what's going to be in it yet. Very interested to see where this will go. The designer of Civilization 6 is going to be Ed Beach, who was one of the designers in Civilization 5, and in particular, the lead designer of both expansions of Civilization 5, which really added a lot of amazing stuff to the game. So I'm really excited, and I'm hopeful that that means that Civ 6 will have a great start in life. Looking forward to that. All the information I really have are a couple of screenshots that I'm going to be including here in this video, as well as a press release. So I'm going to read some stuff from the press release right now. We'll look at that. We'll look at the screenshots. We'll try to think about whatever we can analyze from that amount of data and see where it goes. So apparently, Civilization 6 offers new ways to engage with your world. Cities now physically expand across the map, active research in technology and culture unlocks new potential, and competing leaders will pursue their own agendas based on their historical traits as you race for one of 5 ways to achieve victory in the game. So the features. Expansive empires, it says. See the marvels of your empire spread across the map like never before. Each city spans multiple tiles, so you can custom build your cities to take full advantage of local terrain. So I'm really curious as to what that means exactly. I think, hold on, I've got a screenshot somewhere that I can bring up that shows some of the city stuff over here. So you can see how different, what appears to be different city buildings occupy individual tiles. Now, it seems like what's happening here is the city buildings themselves are almost going to be replacing, or at very least sort of combining with tile improvements or something of that nature. Because if you look here, like you can see a plantation here over on the left side of the map, but which normally would be a tile improvement that you build with workers. But then over here we've got some sort of a shrine or temple. We've got back here, I don't know what this is, maybe like a little marketplace or a plaza of some kind. This to me seems like it might be the central city tile itself. And then we have maybe workshops and factories, or again, some sort of market. Obviously, we've got the pyramids and the great library, or the great lighthouse over here, as well as a dock and some large units as well. 1 unit per tile is still in, hexes are still in. So we don't know exactly what this means, but the way that this is sprawled out really feels like cities aren't going to feel as circular anymore and can potentially grow in slightly different directions. No clue what it means in the end, but it's very interesting while still feeling very Civ 5, which is a good thing because Civ 5 was an excellent iteration of the franchise. Next bullet point in this press release here. Active research. Unlock boosts that speed your civilization's progress through history. To advance more quickly, use your units to actively explore, develop your environment, and discover new cultures. It feels like they may have done a little bit more work on the exploration phase of the classic 4X formula, right? Explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. And exploration was always a thing in Civilization, but might have been one of the weaker aspects of it, other than, you know, your initial start where you're looking for your first city location, or your first expansion location. Exploration was mostly not a whole lot going on for it. And it sounds like there might be a wee bit more going on there, and certainly maybe a little bit more to do with your units at peacetime, which would also not be a bad thing. But of course, I'm just trying to read into the language here. I really have no clue as to what the mechanic will actually end up being. It is interesting that your units will combo a little bit more with your technology, and it seems like there's a second reference to things that make it feel like the way we're going to progress through the technology tree is going to be different. Maybe there's no technology tree at all. Who knows? Next bullet point is dynamic diplomacy. Interactions with other civilizations change over the course of the game. From primitive first interactions where conflict is a fact of life, to late game alliances and negotiations. I have seen this in, I'm trying to remember, I think like the Caveman to Cosmos mod in Civilization 4, I believe had, I may be remembering the wrong thing here, but I believe it had this sort of a diplomatic aspect where you would start with very little that you could really negotiate with. It was just assumed that other tribes were just your enemies all the time. And it wasn't until later, until you guys actually started to build proper civilization and started to develop proper channels of diplomacy, before real diplomacy beyond just whether we're hitting each other or not becomes available. And I mean, we've always had a little bit of that, like technology trading would only be unlocked in with Alphabet, for example, in Civilization 4, or open borders and alliances may not open without certain technology. But it sounds like it might be a little bit more explicit and a little bit more detailed here. And that'll be interesting to go, because, I mean, naturally, that feels like it should be the way of diplomacy, right? Historically, there wasn't that much diplomacy way back in the day, but in the modern day, diplomacy is extremely complex, with lots of different agreements and lots of different layers of diplomacy going on between different countries. So it'll be interesting to see exactly where that goes. The next bullet point is one that's really interesting. Combined arms. Expanding on the one unit per tile design, support units can now be embedded with other units, like anti-tank support with infantry, or a warrior with settlers. Similar units can be combined to form powerful core units. Core, C-O-R-P-S, units. We've seen, I've played World War II games where obviously you design your units with a certain mix of, anti-tank, anti-air, recon, engineer support, those sorts of things. But I don't think we've seen this sort of thing in a pure 4X game like Civilization before. And I actually think that's quite cool. I mean, unit per tile has obviously proven to be very, very well received. People really love the 1 unit per tile of Civilization 5. It allows for a lot of tactical gameplay, a lot of chess tiles gameplay. It also means that as a human player, you can take on a vastly superior AI force just by thinking real hard about what you're going to do with your unit placement and using the terrain to your advantage. And I like that now, the idea that, an archer is not always an archer. An archer might be something with a twist, and you can tune your units a little bit. Because, of course, I mean, this is not necessarily a bad part of 4X style games like Civilization, but there are, other than a handful of unique units, a mace man is just a mace man is just a mace man in most of these games, but that sounds like it'll no longer be the case, and I wonder exactly what kind of effect that's going to have on warfare. It certainly sounds like a lot of fun, as long as it's not, boring to micromanage that. But I think that this might be simple enough to just sort of like add a modifier, very much like your promotion system, right? Promotion systems have often been like this, where you get a promotion that gives you a bonus against other melee units, against bombardment, a bonus to attacking cities, a bonus when you're sitting in the forest, and so on and so forth. And that might be replaced or combined with this combined arms idea. So we'll see how that goes. Next bullet point, enhanced multiplayer. In addition to traditional multiplayer modes, cooperate and compete with your friends in a wide variety of situations, all designed to be easily completed in a single session. So are these scenarios? Or is it something like, we're going to start you off in the medieval period, so you're going to start with a bunch of tech, 2 settlers, and a bunch of army, and go, and you've got, 50 turns to end up with the highest score? Like, there's a bunch of different ways this could work. And one of the problems with Civilization and other games like it, let me change the screenshot here for you, is always, of course, that it's a long time commitment to play this game with your friends. It tends to take hours to play through one particular session. And so the appeal of something that you can do in one sitting is actually going to be quite high, assuming these scenarios are great and a good viable alternative to just playing the normal game. I like to see that they're experimenting with that. We'll see if it works out or not, but that's quite cool. And then final bullet point, a Civ for all players. Civilization 6 provides veteran players new ways to build and tune their civilization for the greatest chance of success. New tutorial systems are designed to introduce new players to the underlying concepts of civilization so they can easily get started on a path to victory. With the first part, obviously, we all of us, you guys who are listening, are probably considered veteran players. And so for us, I think it's very exciting that, new ways to build and tune their civilization. One of the things, Ed Beach, the designer of this, is also the person who put in, the religion system in Civ 5. And what is more tune something for your personal success than the Civ 5 religion system? And so if there's a little bit of that element here in Civ 6, I think that will indeed be something that veteran players will enjoy. But the second part of that statement is not something that we should discount, because one of the things that helps games be a game is if they have a big audience. And the more new players we can bring into something like Civ or strategy gaming in general means the more companies will make Civ-style games for us in the future. So it is really nice if we can get some proper tutorials up in here. On the other hand, for poor YouTubers like me who tend to get a lot of views with their tutorial, maybe it's better if the game doesn't have one. No, not really. I actually want more people to be into the game because then more people will come watch Let's Plays. I think this screenshot in particular is gorgeous. I love the little splash of colors on our samurai units here. The little purple on the rooftops and in the background as well. I mean, it's a little bit more subtle, but we've got some colored sort of, I don't know, plants, ferns, something on the ground. And I like the little splash of color that's going on here. It's got a little bit more of that exaggerated perspective that was there certainly in Civ 5. And I think with any top-down game, you always need a certain amount of distortion in the shape of the object because we are looking down on things. If I'm pretty sure most of these models, when you look at the character models for any 3D game that is played top down like this, you tend to have much larger body parts that are sort of distorted a bit. So when you're looking down, things A, sort of look right, and B, are immediately recognizable. And there's really good silhouette differences in the characters here, which is quite cool. Although, I just realized, I wonder if that's the support thing. Because you look at these units, we've got two guys with sort of, I don't know, trident helmets. We've got this guy with like a pointy wizard's hat, and we've got this one with that that sort of traditional like rice gathering hat. I don't know what it's called, but that's I don't know, but I'm assuming that this must be an aspect of the combined arms. This little army here has probably been tuned with some extra little traits, which is why the units don't look the same. Or maybe what they do is they semi-randomized look of units. So this could just be a generic samurai unit, and they just get random models. There is actually, I just realized, a difference with these pikemen over here. These two have these wide brim helmets, and these two over here don't have any helmets at all. They just sort of have a chainmail coif going on. That I don't think we've seen before. Now, it could just be an art that, again, they're mixing up the look of the units. Maybe it's semi-randomized, or there might be a visual representation of specialization with support units. I mean, I guess they don't look like support units, so I don't know. God, this looks gorgeous back here. Territory just going by. And yeah, what's really interesting here, again, these could just be farms built by worker units. But where does the city start and end? Because this... Wait, did they have dinosaur bones? What? Why would they have dinosaur bones? Huh. I mean, that looks like a sawmill, and again, traditionally that would have been built by workers, but is it that, or is it something that the city built? The borders certainly don't give a sense of being round. Now, of course, these screenshots are zoomed in. They're also these are obviously super pre-alpha screenshots, right? A million things might change by the time we get our hands on it, although this water effect is really good, and I hope that doesn't change. Look at that. That is really nice to look at. What a great screenshot. I like the little balloons down here, too. And the other thing, of course, is quite frequently these are semi-contrived examples. This is not something that necessarily came up organically in gameplay. Usually the idea is to try to include lots of different things that you want to show off. That this might not represent a good way to build your city, for example, right? But it looks cool and shows off some structures. For example, we saw the great lighthouse in the first screenshot from the gameplay, whereas here this just looks to me like a regular lighthouse. So it's nice to see that put in there. But yeah, wow, these visuals are really, really, really good. Love the color. And that's one of the things... that was actually one of my complaints with Civilization Beyond Earth, is that the color scheme was, I don't know, I think they tried too hard to be sort of realistic alien, and the colors didn't pop enough. And one of the strengths of Civilization, right from Civ 1, honestly, but Civ 5 did a really good job of this, really sort of high contrast colors that pop from the background so you can clearly see a resource on the ground. You never had to sort of squint to see if there was a certain resource on a certain tile in Civilization 5. And that seems to be the same thing here, which is really good for the game, because what you want to be able to do is zoom out quite far, look at a large area of the terrain, and instantly get a good sense of everything that's out there. I wonder, so these are fish. It looks like we've got two crabs over here. We can try to get a bit of a sense as to what kind of resources might be in the game. This could be some sort of, clam or coral or something, or it could just be some effect that's a result of the docks or the lighthouse over here. It's hard to tell. Looks like some more fish back there. I'm betting this is some sort of unique resource of some kind, because these red little things do seem to pop out, and it doesn't look like a construction. So I'm assuming this is a thing. We did see horses in one of the picture. I think it was not this screenshot. What are these people, I wonder? I wonder if there might be monks or missionaries. That's probably exactly what's going on there, which, if that's true, might mean religion is in the base game for Civ 6, which would be interesting. One of the things that always happens when any new version of a game comes out, there's always some features that might not make it in that were there in the previous iteration. Because, of course, you are more or less starting from scratch with a completely new engine, oftentimes, new user interface, and new basic game balance. And it might not be possible to put in, say, the gods and kings style of religion into the very first pass of Civ 6. And that might still be the case, but these might still be missionaries. So at the very least, it seems like there might be some sort of religion function, but it might work completely differently. And in fact, if Civ 6 was just a reskin version of Civ 5, that would obviously be terrible. So there's going to have to be some changes. Almost certainly there'll be new features, potentially some old features, maybe removed or changed. We'll see how it goes. I love the lighting on that. Everything looks really bright. I mean, obviously, sort of stylized a little. It feels a little like models. You know, if they added a bit of a tilt shift effect on this, it would feel a little bit like a model, like it's been carved out of like clay or something. Definitely a very distinct style, which is very visually appealing. And again, everything really pops out. It's easy to tell things from the background, which was one of my big complaints with Beyond Earth, and I'm really happy they've gone for this really bright, cheerful style over here. I suspect some people will probably think, oh, it looks too cartoony or something of that nature, but I think that this is actually going to be very successful for bringing a lot of clarity, and it feels very cheerful and happy to me. So looking forward to taking a look at this. Of course, the game comes out on October 21st, so that's when we'll all have our hands on it at that point. So stay tuned for more information. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.